Daf Yomi Tractate Sanhedrin, page 49b. On this Amud, on this side of the page, we start the 7th chapter of Tractate Sanhedrin, called Arba Misos, or Arba Mitot, depending on your pronunciation. Arba Mitot Nimseru Lebet Din. 4 types of death penalty were given over to the court. Skila, Srefa, Hereg, Vechenek. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Srefa, Skila, Chenek, Vehereg. Zo mitzvat haniskarin. That's the whole Mishnah. 4 types of death penalty were given over to the court, with which those who committed certain transgressions are executed. They are, in descending order of severity, stoning, burning, killing by decapitation, and strangulation. Rabbi Shimon says they are, in descending order of severity, burning, stoning, strangulation, and killing, which means by decapitation. This execution described in the previous chapter is referring to the mitzvah of those who are stoned, meaning to the process of execution by stoning. Okay. I think because stoning is the only mitzvah that's written in the Torah, I think that's what they're reading here. Okay. I think that's my thought. Gemara, the Talmud says, Amar Rava, Amar Rav Sechoira, Amar Rav Huna, Kol Makam Shishanu Chachamim, Derech Minyan, Ein Mukdam Umeochal, Chutz Mishiva Simoni. Ein Mukdam Umeuchal, which means there's no chronology to it. Ein Mukdam Meuchal Batorah. Okay. Rava says that Sechora says that Rav Huna says wherever Chutz Mishiva Simonim. Okay, wherever the sages taught a halacha by means of a list, there is no significance to the order of their list. It means ein mukdam u'me'achar. There's no previous or after. It's just they're all there, except for the Mishnah that discusses the 7 abrasive substances, where the order is significant. L'tnan shiva simonim maviren al hakesem roik tafel u'megrisin u'meraglaim beneser u'boiris kemo ilia ve'eshlech. As we learned in the Mishnah, Nida 61b, one applies 7 abrasive substances to the stain found on a woman's clothing in order to find out whether the stain is from menstrual blood and therefore ritually impure, or whether it is another type of stain and therefore pure. These substances are bland spittle, which is the spittle of someone who has not yet tasted anything in the morning. Moisture of grits, which is the spittle of one who has chewed the grits of beans. Urine, natron, whatever that is. Lye, okay, that's a sort of a cleaning agent. Lye, Chemolian earth, and potash. If the stain disappears as a result of the application of all these substances, the stain is considered to have been from blood. Bekatoni seifa, heviran shalakesidron, oy shaviran leshivason keechad lo yasu lo klum. And it is taught in the latter clause of that Mishnah that the order of the substances is essential, as it states, if one applied them not in the order prescribed for them, or applied all 7 of them at once, he has done nothing. The laundering has not been effective. Rav Papa Sava Mishmei Derav Omar Af Arba Misos Mi Dekamip Miflik Rab Shimon Shmamina Daf Katani V'idach Bepulukta Lo Kamari. Rav Papa the elder says in the name of Rav The 4 types of death penalty are also taught in order. This is apparent from the fact that Rav Shimon disagrees with the first order and conclude from it that it is taught in an exact order. The Gemara adds, and the other sage, Rav Huna, does not include this Mishnah among those in which the order is significant, as he is not speaking of Mishnayot, where there is a dispute with regard to the correct order. Rav Papa Amar, Av Seder Yom Aditnan, Kol Maaseh Yom HaKippurim Amrum Al Seder, Im Higdim Maaseh Lechavero, Lo Asa Velo Klum. Rav Papa says, the order of the service, temple, on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, is also taught in its proper order, as we learned in the Mishnah, Yoma 60a, with regard to all actions performed in the context of the service of Yom Kippur, which are stated in the Mishnah, as in the Torah, in order. The halacha is, if the high priest performed one action before another, meaning if he diverged from the order that is written, it is as though he has done nothing. V'idach, Hahuchum Ba'alma, and the other sage of Huna, does not include this Mishnah because that is merely a stringency. Although a change in the order invalidates the Yom Kippur service, this is not due to the importance of some rites relative to others, but because this order was established by the Torah. Rav Huna v'rei Rav Yehoshua Amar, Av Seder Tomid Iktoni Allah, Azehu Seder Tomid. V'hider Hahu Lemitzvot Be'alma. Rav Huna, son of Yehoshua, says, the order of the daily offering described in the Mishnah at the end of Tractate Tamid 33b is also essential, as it is taught with regard to it. This is the order of the daily offering, indicating that it should be performed in exactly that order. And the other sage, Rav Huna, does not include this Mishnah, as that requirement is merely for the mitzvah. In other words, it is preferable that the offering be sacrificed in that order, but it is not disqualified if one deviates from that order. Ulafuke b'mitzvah chalitza ditnan mitzvah chalitza bahu b'yavimto lefnei bezdin. Hayu nosdin lo etza haugenes lo shnevar v'karo lo ziknei iro v'dibru elav. And Rav Huna's principle excludes the mitzvah of the ritual through which a man whose married brother dies childless frees his late brother's wife of her levirate bonds, meaning it teaches that the order of that ceremony is not essential. As we learned in the Mishnah in Yevamot 106b, the mitzvah of chalitza is performed in this manner. The Yavam and his Yavama come before the court, and the judge of the court offer him advice that is appropriate for him as to whether to enter levirate marriage or to perform chalitza, as it is stated, and the elders of his city shall call him and speak to him. Deuteronomy 25:8. It's also a combination of the Appeal 89. 25:8 is 8:25. Very nice. A nice surprise. A very nice surprise indeed. Weiter. Veha omeres me'en yevami. Hu oimer lo chafatzti lo kachto. Lashon HaKodesh hayoimrin. And if they decide to perform chalitza, she says, my brother-in-law refused to establish a name for his brother in Israel. He did not wish to consummate levirate marriage. Deuteronomy 25:7. And afterward he says, I do not wish to take her. Deuteronomy 25:8. And they would say these statements in the sacred tongue, the Hebrew. Okay. וניגשה יבימתו אליו לעיני הזקנים וכל צנע לו הביאו כה בפניו רויק הנראה לדיינין ואנס ויאמר ככה יעשה לו איש וגוימר ונקרא שמו בישראל. The verse states, his Yavama shall approach him before the elders and remove his shoe from on his foot and spit before him. Deuteronomy 25:9. Accordingly, she removes his shoe and spits before him a quantity of spittle as visible to the judges. And she shall respond and say, so shall be done to the man who does not build his brother's house, and his name shall be called in Israel, the house of he who had his shoe removed. Beit HaChalutz. Deuteronomy 25:9-10. One of you the mitzvah chalitza koira v'koira v'koira choletzis v'choikekas v'koiro. And Rav Yehuda says that this is the correct order for the mitzvah of chalitza. She recites the sentence beginning with, my brother-in-law refused. Deuteronomy 25:7. And afterward he recites, I do not wish to take her. Deuteronomy 25:8. Then she removes the shoe and spits and recites, so shall be done to the man who does not build his brother's house. Deuteronomy 25:9. V'havinan ba my kamash melon. V'havinan ba my kamash melon. Let's see, he kamash melon mitzvah hachi v'yepach leslan ba. Tanya nam yachi ben shigdim chalitza l'rikiko or l'rikiko l'chalitza ma she'asa asui. And we discussed what is Rav Yehuda teaching us. This is already stated in the Mishnah. The answer is that this is what Rav Yehuda teaches us. It is a mitzvah to perform chalitza like this, meaning this is the proper order. But if one switched the order, we have no problem with it. The chalitza is still valid, as the order of the ritual is not essential. This is also taught in a braita. Whether one performed the removal of the shoe before the spitting, or the spitting before the removal of the shoe, what she did is done, meaning the chalitza is valid. Moisif aleihen kohen gadol, choishen ve'efoid, u'mi'il v'tzitz. And Rav Huna's principle also excludes that with which we learned in a Mishnah in Yoma 71b. The high priest serves, meaning performs a temple service, wearing 8 garments, and the ordinary priest performs a temple service wearing 4. An ordinary priest performs a temple service in a tunic, in trousers, in a mitre, and in a belt. The high priest adds another 4 garments beyond those worn by the ordinary priest, a breastplate, and an ephod, and a robe, and a front plate. The order listed in this Mishnah indicates that the tunic was put on first. Vitanya, we learned in the Bible, davar koidim lemichnasayim, shenema michnasei bad yobesaroi. And it's taught in Braita, from where is it derived that nothing precedes the donning of the trousers when the priest dresses? As it is stated, he shall wear a sacred tunic of linen, and trousers of linen shall be on his flesh. Leviticus 16:4. This indicates that the trousers come first, as they are worn directly on the flesh, proving that the list in the Mishnah is not in accordance with the order in which the priest dressed. Vitana, my time ikdim leketzoines, mishum li akdame kara, ukra my time beakdame, mishum mechas yikud gufe adifale. The Gemara asks, but if so, what is the reason the Tana mentions the tunic first? The Gemara answers, because the verse mentions it first. The Gemara asks, and what is the reason the verse mentions it first? The Gemara answers, because it covers his entire body. The Torah prefers to mention it first. Skila v'chule. Skila chamura misreifa. Sheken nitna lemegadef. Uleoived avodah zara. Mai chumra. Sheken poshik yada beikar. The Mishnah states that the types of death penalty in descending order of severity: stoning, burning, killing by decapitation, and strangulation. The Gemara discusses the basis for this order. Stoning is considered more severe than burning, as stoning is meted out to one who blasphemes, meaning one who blesses God, the euphemism, and to one who worships idols. For what reason is the severity of those transgressions considered greater than others? Because the transgression undermines the fundamental tenets of Judaism. Adarava, streifa chamura, sheken nitna lebas kohen shezinso, l'may chumra sheken mechalel esesavyo. The Gemara raises an objection. On the contrary, burning is more severe than stoning, as it is meted out to a priest's daughter who committed adultery. See Leviticus 21:9. And for what reason is the severity of this transgression considered greater than others? Because through her sin she profanes not only herself, but her father as well. And by extension, the priesthood. But the Gemara only says her father, but just my 2 cents worth.